Hello, March of Chaos. This is your King Knife. It's about time EX Turk with another Final Fantasy VII Remake discussion. Talking about possibilities of this new continuity. Since we already know from Square Enix and we know from Tetsuo Nomura, from the man's words, the man who's going to remake, is the director of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, that with the help of Katarse, Tetsuo Nomura said that there's not going to be a completion continuity. So, what I'm predicting is there's going to be a complete new continuity with the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, they could do this the right way, or they could do this the wrong way. They could take up 15's direction and do it the wrong way, and make one chapter the worst chapter, and make it so people will never play a Final Fantasy game ever again. Or this can end up being a real good Final Fantasy remake, to the point where people get back into Final Fantasy again and actually invest in the medium, and it'll stay back on the top charts for video games out there. I mean, don't get me wrong, Final Fantasy 15 has made it in the top charts. It's made it close. I'd say it's close. It's neck and neck close to Resident Evil 7. Final Fantasy 15 and Resident Evil 7 are neck to neck in like gamer score, so it's still high. But in order to get this 8, we're gonna have to push Tetsuo Nomura's buttons and push the game further than in a direction where this can't actually go wrong, and that's what I'm talking about right now. It's like, in order for them to get 8, they're gonna have to push a lot more. So, I think the only thing that's positive about this will stick to the original canon. So people who are pissed off at Crisis Core, or people who are pissed off at Dirge of Cerberus, and only like the original stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the completion the way it is, but that's just me. But for people who just didn't like the compilation of Final Fantasy VII, this is a perfect game for you to play. So all you Final Fantasy elitists that hated 13 and hated the compilation of the Final Fantasy VII, this will actually make this a lot better, I think. This will actually carry over pretty well for you guys. Now, we don't know for the general public. We don't know nothing for the people who's played the compilation. We don't know, strict Final Fantasy fans who will play anything Final Fantasy and give it a good score, because there are channels that do that. But nonetheless, there's, it's a very big possibility that, I want to actually explore in this game, considering the fact that Final Fantasy VII is my all-time favorite Final Fantasy game ever. I know more about Final Fantasy VII than I do of 15 and 13, and I'm familiar with the world of 13, and I'm familiar with the world of 15. But 7 is my all-time favorite. I know all the lore of Final Fantasy VII. Now, is this bad or good? We don't know. The only way they can make this really good, the only way they can make this remake really good, is not if they would stick to, even if they change the story a little bit or alter it, they should still keep the original storyline to a little bit. What I mean by the original storyline is that, like the Avalanche, the bombing mission, Giant Scorpion, the Sephiroth's Nibelheim, the Nibelheim burning done by Sephiroth. Everything. Everything. Now, for the extra characters, Vincent and Yuffie, it could be possibly they keep it the same, where you encounter Yuffie in the forest and you beat her up and she joins your party, and the Vincent Valentine comes from a casket. Or they could change their story, which, like I said before about the Vincent Valentine, I think Vincent Valentine would be a better character. When you meet him, you have to actually fight Vincent. Then it makes sense, because since Vincent Valentine was an ex-Turk and Cloud's an ex-soldier, it would make sense that those two would fight, because even though the Shinra affiliated, Shinra affiliated task force and army, they still, Soldier and Turk has a bitter rivalry. thus the Turks getting paid more. The Turks getting paid more than Soldier, but Soldier ends up being stronger than the Turks because Turks don't go on real dangerous missions. But nonetheless, the only way they can make a definitive Vincent Valentine is if they make Vincent fight Cloud, because I would like to see a more revenged, obsessed Vincent instead of a sad emo one that was in the original one. I'd actually like to see a much more revenge, obsessed one to the point where Cloud has to fight him to calm him down, and then he joins Cloud's party because Cloud, because Cloud's gonna meet up with Sephiroth and Hojo, so it would give Vincent the interest, and then later on, without knowing it, they meet Lucretia later on. But that I'd like that for Vincent Valentine's part of the story. Cloud's part of the story should stay the same as it is and not be altered, in my opinion, besides the fact that the Midgar arc being a little bit longer, which I'm okay with that, but they should keep Cloud's story as close as possible to the original game, as well as Barrett Tifa. Now, Sid Highwing, they could actually do things with Sid Highwing. They can make multiple different stories with Sid Highwing. And for Yuffie, they should just keep us fighting her, and she ends up stealing your materia and you get it back. Now they could change it a little bit, but if they change, I don't think they need to change those characters. Vincent Valentine's origin might need to change just a little bit and make him more relevant. Since there's not going to be no continuity to the compilation, I think Vincent Valentine should tell Cloud how Sephiroth was born and put Lucretia in the flashback with Turk Vincent a little earlier. And why should I say that? Then that'd make Vincent's role more reprisable without needing a sequel, without needing the completion. It's the same thing with Zack. I think Zack should appear early on in Cloud's cutscenes. So that way we won't need a Crisis Core. If this is going to be a big game, they can actually pull this off. So we need more detailed scenes of Zack. We need Vincent's past involving Lucretia and Sephiroth and Hojo. And that way you don't even need the completion characters, because you wouldn't need a completion. It'd be a compilation by itself with the episodes that are coming out in the remake. Now, Sephiroth, I like the new idea for Sephiroth. I'm not going to say nothing about Sephiroth. And yes, I'm kind of a Sephiroth fanboy. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to just tell it like it is. But Sephiroth, I like that they're going the way they did with Caius. Because now you have to fight Sephiroth instead of all those forms of Genova. So you'll be... I don't know how you put it this way. You're actually going to be fighting Sephiroth and getting to know Sephiroth and his plans a lot earlier. That way, Sephiroth is a more realistic villain. The only thing I want them to keep with the Final Fantasy VII Remake is... I'm making the Final Fantasy VII is to make Sephiroth 10 times more badass. Make him more... I know they can't... I don't know if they're going to make the game M-rated or not. But I kind of wish they would make the game M-rated a little bit, because then we get to see the brutality that Sephiroth showed the Shinra company. Because Sephiroth's a brutal character. He's about brutality. He shares no compassion for anything or anyone. And, if anything, I kind of compare Sephiroth to the likes of Darth Vader. Like, Darth Vader shows no compassion. He'll just strike you down without even thinking about it and won't even lose sleep. Sephiroth is the same thing. And I think it'd be perfect if Final Fantasy VII Remake had an M-rated, because then you get to see the merciless, cruel monster Sephiroth has became over the years. So we get to fight even a meaner, nastier, eviler Sephiroth than we known in the original. So I like the fact that they're pushing him as a villain earlier on after you defeat Rufus Shinra. And I think Final Fantasy VII Remake would do much better being M-rated, if you ask me, because then they can go into detail of how the experiments are made, what Shinra does to people, and how monstrous Sephiroth is, and why you need to stop Sephiroth. And I think another thing that they can make the continuity better is if they made Final Fantasy VII a little bit darker than the original game. Since we're no longer kiddies anymore, Since we're no longer kiddies, the original fans of Final Fantasy VII, we're no longer kiddies anymore. We're no longer kiddies with the PlayStation, or grown-ass adults, or college students at this point. So it shouldn't be too much to ask for an M-rated Final Fantasy VII Remake. Just saying. And then that way they don't even have to censor Barrett because, well... And I know they're not going to do that because they need to put T, because then you could get a broader people. But if they can't make the game M-rated, that's fine. I'm not going to complain too much about that. But they should make Final Fantasy VII Remake a lot darker than the original if they're going to make this new continuity. Because even though as a kid it wasn't as... I guess it couldn't be as dark as it's Polygon. They can make this a dark game. Because the Final Fantasy VII storyline was a dark game. It started from corporate greed to hunting down a murderous Shinra soldier deserter, to stopping an evil cursed meteor from destroying the planet. And it dealt with a lot more. It dealt with, gods, the cycle of death and rebirth, because people that die go into the life stream, which is more of a mature subject, let's be quite honest. And then there's even far further mature things earlier in the game, like when Cloud has to go save Tifa from a sex trafficker that works for Shinra secretly, Don Corneo. It was a very mature subject there too. And Final Fantasy games are usually dark and gritty. I think it'd be better if they make this even darker than 15 if possible. If they could make Final Fantasy VII Remake a little bit darker than 15 was. This time, we need to push beers. Now, if you can't make it M-rated, that's fine. And I don't think they're going to, because what we seen in the trailer, they're using Unreal Engine, so... An Unreal Engine is the same engine that's played in the Batman Arkham games and, Assassin's Creed games. But they're more likely going to go copy the Batman Arkham games because, to make it so people can actually play the remake because... they still... Okay, but the Rocksteady was able to make the Batman Arkham games real dark, even with the T rating. That's what I want for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I want a darker Final Fantasy VII Remake. That I will not settle for anything else. If you're going to cut off my favorite games, my other favorite games, Crisis Core, Dirge of Cerberus, Before Crisis, and Avid Children movie, then you know what? I think they owe us a darker Final Fantasy continuity. With only little bit of tampering with the stories, but not to the extent of us. I don't know if that makes any sense. But I think Final Fantasy VII should keep its original story, tamper a little bit, so we don't even notice. It'd be the same game. If you could change Vince's story, and see with the Dark Final Fantasy VII Remake, Vince's story could be a little bit darker, because then it would make it much better, because it put more of the darkness in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, as well as making Sephiroth be able to cause fatalities at the Shinra company, because, I want to see a more badass Sephiroth. So, nonetheless, may the crystal be with you, and comment below on what you think they should do in the new Final Fantasy VII Remake continuity.
How do you stay so